you know there's something absolutely insidious happening, and it's been happening for so long that most people have completely internalized it without ever questioning whether it's true. From the moment you were born, you've been receiving a message. Subtle, sometimes blatant, other time, but relentless and consistent. The message is this: you are not enough as you are. Something is fundamentally wrong with you. You are broken and need to be fixed. And this message doesn't come from one source. It comes from everywhere. From your parent who compared you to other children and found you lacking. From schools that measured you against arbitrary standards and labeled you deficient when you didn't conform. From religions that told you that you were born sinful and needed salvation. From advertising that shows you images of what you should look like, what you should own, what you should achieve, all designed to make you feel inadequate so you'll buy what they're selling. From social media that turns your entire life into a performance where you're constantly being measured and found wanting. From therapists who pathologize normal human responses and turn them into disorders requiring treatment. The message is everywhere, inescapable, suffocating, and by the time you're an adult, you don't even question it anymore. You simply believe it. You are broken, and you spend your entire life trying to fix yourself, never realizing that there was never anything wrong with you in the first place. If this strikes something deep in you, if you've spent years believing you were fundamentally flawed and are beginning to question that story, please give this video a thumbs up and share what you're discovering in the comments below. And if you want to understand how society manipulates your self-perception, subscribe to this channel. Now, let me be absolutely clear about what I'm saying here, because this is crucial. I'm not suggesting that growth isn't valuable, or that self-improvement is wrong, or that there's no such thing as psychological wounds that need healing. What I'm saying is that beneath all of that, beneath whatever genuine work you might need to do, there is nothing fundamentally wrong with you. You are not broken at the core. You are not defective by nature. You are not a problem that needs solving. You are a human being having a human experience, and that experience includes the full range of thought and feelings and responses that have always been part of the human condition. But society cannot profit from you if you're content. Society cannot control you if you feel complete. Society cannot manipulate you if you're not desperately seeking something outside yourself to make you whole. And so society must convince you that you are broken, that you need what they're selling, that you must conform to their standards, that you should be ashamed of who you naturally are. The first way society convinces you you're broken is by pathologizing normal human emotion and experiences. You feel sad sometime, that's depression. You need medication. You feel anxious about uncertain situation, that's an anxiety disorder. You need treatment. You have trouble focusing on boring tasks, that's ADHD. You need drug. You feel uncomfortable in large social gathering, that's social anxiety. Something is wrong with you. You have strong emotional responses to difficult experience, that's being overly sensitive. You need to toughen up or get therapy. Do you see what's happening here? Every normal human response, every natural emotion, every reasonable reaction to difficult circumstances is being reframed as pathology, as illness, as evidence that something is wrong with you. And I'm not saying that severe depression or crippling anxiety or genuine disorders don't exist. They do, and people who are truly suffering deserve support. But what's happened is that the range of what's considered normal human experience has been narrowed to an impossibly small window, and everything outside that tiny window is labeled as disorder, as disease, as brokenness requiring intervention. Think about sadness for a moment. Sadness is a completely natural response to loss, disappointment, difficulty, the recognition of impermanence and suffering that's inherent to exist. For all of human history, sadness has been understood as a normal part of life, something that comes and goes like weather. But now, if you're sad for more than 2 weeks, you're diagnosable with depression. Your natural human response to difficult circumstances becomes a medical condition requiring pharmaceutical intervention. And what's the message embedded in that? The message is your natural emotional responses are wrong. They're symptoms of illness. You're broken and need to be fixed with medication. The same is true for anxiety. Anxiety is your nervous system's natural response to threat or uncertainty. It's an evolutionary adaptation that kept your ancestors alive thrive by making them cautious and alert in dangerous situations. But now, any anxiety about the very real uncertainties and threats of modern life is pathologized as disorder. You're not responding normally to an anxiety-producing world. You're broken, and you need pills or therapy or both to fix what's wrong with you. I once spoke with someone who went to a doctor because she was having trouble sleeping, and instead of exploring whether perhaps she was drinking too much caffeine or looking at screens before bed or dealing with stressful circumstances that naturally disturb sleep, the doctor immediately diagnosed her with insomnia and prescribed medication. Within 5 minutes, her natural response to life circumstances had been turned into a medical disorder, and she walked out believing something was fundamentally wrong with her body. This is happening millions of times a day. Normal human experiences being pathologized, natural responses being medicalized, and people being convinced that they're broken simply for being human. The second way society convinces you you're broken is by creating impossible standards and then shaming you when you don't meet. You're supposed to be successful but not too ambitious, confident but not arrogant, strong but also vulnerable, independent but also cooperative, unique but also fitting in, productive but also balanced, perfect parent, perfect partner, perfect employee, perfect friend, perfect body, perfect life. These standards are not just high, they're contradictory and impossible. Nobody can meet them because they're designed not to be met. They're designed to keep you in a perpetual state of feeling inadequate, always reaching for something just beyond your grasp, always believing that if you could just try harder or be better or fix this one more thing about yourself, then finally you'd be enough. Look at what's happened with physical appearance. The beauty standards promoted by media and advertising are literally impossible to achieve without digital manipulation. Professional lighting, makeup artists, personal trainers, plastic surgery, and even then, they're photoshopped before publication. But these impossible images are presented as normal, as what you should look like. And when you look in the mirror and see an actual human body with normal features and imperfections, you're supposed to feel ashamed, to believe something is wrong with you. And conveniently, there are endless products and procedures and programs you can buy to try to fix your broken. This is not accidental. This is a system designed to create and maintain insecurity, because insecurity is profitable. If you felt good about your body exactly as it is, entire industries would collapse. The diet industry, the cosmetic surgery industry, the beauty product industry, they all depend on you believing you're not acceptable as you are. The same pattern plays out with success and achievement. You're bombarded with images of people who appear to have it all. Perfect careers and perfect relationship and perfect home and perfect children, all while somehow also being relaxed and fulfilled and living their best life. And when your actual life, with its normal struggles and compromises and imperfection, doesn't match these curated images, you're supposed to conclude that you're failing, that something is wrong with you, that you need to buy this course or read this book or hire this coat to fix whatever's broken in you that's preventing you from achieving the impossible standard. Do you see the game? Create impossible standard. Showcase people who appear to meet them through careful curation and omission of all difficulty, and then profit from everyone else's resulting sense of inadequacy and broken. The third way society convinces you you're broken is by punishing authenticity and rewarding performance. From your earliest years, you learned that being yourself, expressing what you actually thought and felt, being honest about your actual experience, often led to punishment or rejection or disapproval. But performing, pretending, conforming, wearing the right mask, those behaviors were rewarded with approval and acceptance and love, or at least the appearance of love. So you learned to hide your authentic self and perform whatever role seemed to be required in each situation. And then society tells you that this need to perform conform. This inability to just be yourself is evidence that something is wrong with you. You lack confidence. You're not authentic enough. You have imposter syndrome. You need to work on yourself so you can be more genuine. But what created the inauthenticity in the first place? Society did, by consistently punishing authenticity and rewarding performance. Think about the child who expresses big emotion, who cries when hurt, or rages when frustrated, or melts down when overwhelmed. How is that child typically treated? They're told to stop crying, to calm down, to control themselves, to not make a scene. The message is clear. Your authentic emotional experience is unacceptable. You must suppress it and perform calm even when you don't feel calm. Or think about the teenager who questions authority or challenges conventional thinking or expresses unconventional desire. How are they typically treated? As problems, as rebels, as difficult, as needing to be corrected and brought back into line with acceptable behavior. Again, the message is unmistakable. Your authentic self is wrong. You must perform the acceptable version or face consequence. And after years or decades of this conditioning, you've internalized the message so completely that you don't even need external enforcement anymore. You police yourself. You shame yourself for having feelings or thought or desires that don't match what you've been taught is acceptable. And then you believe that this internal conflict, this split between your authentic self and your performed self, is evidence that you're broken, that something fundamental is wrong with you. But here's the truth that nobody wants you to realize. That split was created by society, not by any defect in you. You were born whole. You were born with the capacity to feel the full range of human emotion, to express yourself authentic, to be exactly who you are without apology. And society systematically trained that out of you through punishment and reward, through shame and approval, through 1,000 subtle and not so subtle messages that your authentic self was unacceptable. And now, that same society that created your inauthenticity profit from selling you programs and therapies and product to help you find yourself and be authentic. It's brilliant, really, in a deeply sinister way. Create the problem, then sell the solution, all while keeping you convinced that the problem is you, that you're the one who's broken. The fourth way society convinces you you're broken is by isolating you and then calling your resulting loneliness a personal failure. Human beings evolved to live in close-knit communities, to have constant contact with extended family and neighbors and familiar faces, to be embedded in networks of mutual support and shared meaning. But modern society has systematically destroyed these traditional structures. Families are scattered across continents. Communities are fragmented or non-existent. Neighborhoods are filled with strangers. Work is often isolated and transactional. And technology, which promises connection, actually increases isolation by replacing embodied presence with digital simulation. The result is epidemic loneliness, a deep sense of disconnection that's affecting millions of people. But instead of recognizing this as a social problem, as the predictable result of how we've structured society, we're told it's a personal problem. You're lonely because something is wrong with you. You're not social enough. You're not putting yourself out there enough. You're too anxious or too awkward or to something. The structural problem becomes your personal failure, your evidence of broken. And of course, there are solutions for sale. Dating apps that monetize your loneliness. Social skills courses that promise to fix your inadequacy. Therapy to address your attachment issues. All of it reinforcing the fundamental message that the problem is you, not the society that's created conditions of profound isolation. I remember reading about indigenous cultures where depression and anxiety as we know them are almost non-existent. Not because these people have some genetic advantage or superior psychology, but because they live in intact communities with strong social bond, with shared meaning and purpose, with elders and children and extended family, all integrated into daily life. Place those same people in modern Western society, strip away their community structures, isolate them in nuclear families or alone, subject them to the constant stress and meaninglessness and comparison of modern life. And guess what happened? They develop develop the same rates of depression and anxiety as everyone else. Because the problem is not individual psychology, the problem is collective structure. But acknowledging this would require examining and potentially changing how society is organized, and that's threatening to power structures and profit margin. Much easier to convince millions of individuals that they're each personally broken and need individual fixing, preferably through products and services that generate profit for those same power structures. The fifth way society convinces you you're broken is by disconnecting you from your own body and instinct, and then selling you expertise to tell you what you should be doing. You were born with remarkable instincts and wisdom about what your body needs. Babies know when they're hungry and when they're full. Children know how much sleep they need and when they need to move and play. Your body knows when it needs rest, when it needs move, what foods genuinely nourish it, what situations feel safe or dangerous. But from early on, you're taught not to trust these instincts. Don't eat when you're hungry, eat at designated mealtime. Don't sleep when you're tired, sleep according to the schedule. Don't move when your body needs movement, sit still at your desk. Don't trust your gut feeling about that person or situation. You're probably just being paranoid. Gradually, systematically, you're disconnected from your own body's wisdom and taught to rely instead on external authorities and experts. And once you're fully disconnected from your own instinct, once you no longer trust your own felt sense about what you need, you become dependent on experts to tell you everything. What to eat, when to sleep, how to exercise, how to raise your children, how to have relationships, how to feel about your own experience. Every aspect of life that humans successfully navigated for thousands of years through instinct and accumulated wisdom now requires professional expertise. And what's the implicit message? You don't know what you need. You can't trust yourself. You're incompetent at the basic task of being human. You're broken and you need experts to fix you, or at least tell you how to function. The diet industry is a perfect example of this. Your body knows what it needs. It sends clear signals about hunger and satiety, about what foods make it feel good and what foods don't. But you've been taught not to trust these signals, to follow external rules instead. Count calories, weigh portion, eat according to this plan developed by an expert. And when the diet inevitably fails because it's disconnected from your body's actual needs and wisdom, you're told that you failed, that you lack discipline or willpower, that something is wrong with you. Not that the diet was flawed or that disconnecting you from your body's wisdom was the problem in the first place. No, the problem is you, your brokenness, your inability to follow the expert plan. So, where does this leave you? If society has been systematically convincing you you're broken when you're actually not, what do you do with that understanding? First, you need to recognize the game for what it is. Society needs you to feel inadequate because adequacy doesn't generate profit or compliance. If you felt fundamentally okay exactly as you are, you would stop buying most of what you're sold, stop conforming to most of what you're told, stop accepting conditions and systems that don't serve you. You would become dangerous to the status quo. So the status quo works constantly to maintain your sense of inadequacy, your belief in your own brokenness. Recognizing this doesn't mean you become paranoid or conspiracies everywhere. It means you become discerning about whose messages you internalize, whose standards you accept, whose definitions of normal and broken you adopt. Second, you need to reclaim your own authority about your experience. You know whether you're genuinely suffering or having a normal human response to difficult circumstances. You know whether your sadness is situational and will pass or something deeper that might need support. You know what your body actually needs far better than any expert who doesn't inhabit your body. You know what relationships nourish you and which ones deplete you. You know what work feels meaningful and what feels like slow death. Trust that knowing. Stop outsourcing your authority to experts and systems and social standards that have their own agendas. This doesn't mean you never seek help or guidance. It means you remain the ultimate authority on your own experience. Third, you need to expand your your definition of normal to include the full range of human experience. Sadness is normal. Anxiety in genuinely uncertain situations is normal. Struggling with meaningless work is normal. Feeling out of place in a society that's become increasingly inhuman is normal. Having needs that current structures don't meet is normal. Being imperfect, flawed, constantly learning and growing, that's not brokenness, that's being human. The range of acceptable human experience has been narrowed to a tiny, controlled, profitable window. You need to reject that narrowing and reclaim the full, messy, contradictory, beautiful complexity of what it means to be human. Fourth, you need to stop performing and start being, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it risks disapproval. Every time you perform, instead of being authentic, you reinforce your own sense of inadequacy because part of you knows you're not being real. But every time you show up authentically, even if imperfectly, even if you're judged for it, you prove to yourself that your authentic self is acceptable, that you don't need to perform to deserve to exist. This is terrifying at first because you've been conditioned to believe that your authentic self is unacceptable. But the more you practice authenticity, the more you discover that it's actually fine, that you survive people's disapproval, that the right people actually appreciate your real, and that living authentically is infinitely more satisfying than performing for approval. And finally, perhaps most importantly, you need to find others who see through the game, who recognize that we're not broken, that society is. These people are rare, but they exist, and finding them, connecting with them, building community with them, this is essential. Because trying to maintain your sense of wholeness while surrounded entirely by people who believe in and reinforce the brokenness narrative is nearly impossible. You need community with people who reflect back to you your essential okayness, who don't need you to be anything other than what you are, who have also rejected the message that they're fundamentally flawed and need fixing. Here's the truth that society doesn't want you to know. You are not broken. You never were broken. You are a human being having a human experience in a society that has become increasingly disconnected from what humans actually need to thrive. You have normal reactions to abnormal circumstances. You have authentic needs that aren't being met by current structure. You have instincts and wisdom that have been systematically suppressed. But none of that means something is wrong with you. It means something is wrong with society. And the moment you really understand this, the moment you stop believing in your own brokenness and start questioning the system that profit from that belief, everything shifts. You stop being so easy to manipulate. You stop buying solutions to problems you never had. You stop conforming to standards that don't serve you. You stop performing and start being. You stop seeking external validation and start trusting internal knowing. You are not broken, my friend. Society wants you to think you are, because your belief in your brokenness serves agendas that have nothing to do with your well-being. But you don't have to believe it anymore. You can reject the message, reclaim your wholeness, trust your own experience, and live from the understanding that you are exactly what you need to be, learning and growing and changing like all humans do, but never fundamentally flawed, never requiring fixing, never broken at your core. And that understanding, that simple but revolutionary recognition of your own basic okayness, that is the beginning of actual freedom. Not freedom that someone grants you or sells you, but freedom you claim by refusing to believe the lie that you're anything less than whole.